Hey ST fans, welcome back. And for those here for the first time, my name's Mark, I'm the Editor-in-Chief of the Scuba Diver media brand, and welcome to the Scuba Diver YouTube channel. RIB, or Rigid Hull Inflatable Diving, is a staple of the British diving scene, but these hardy little vessels are becoming more commonplace around our watery planet. In fact, these days many liveaboards have small ribs as tenders. I have spent countless hours bouncing around the sea in these things, and I'm going to be giving you some handy hints and advice on how to make your days of rib diving as easy as possible. Ribs are often called the Land Rover Defender of the sea, as they're tough, durable, designed to cope with less than ideal conditions, and shall we say are fairly basic when it comes to creature comforts. There is a breed of leisure rib available now, as more and more day boaters come to understand the benefits of a rib on the open sea over a more traditional speedboat, and these are bench seats and other useful additions. It is possible to dive from these, but most dive ribs will be more Spartan, with maybe the odd jockey seat and usually a stainless steel tank rack to securely fasten the BCD cylinders in place, or just an open deck space to stack equipment while all the divers perch on the tubes. Being out on the water in a rib is exhilarating, and speeding to a dive site in one will be something familiar with many divers. But if you've never had the opportunity yet, never fear. Just soak up the advice that follows and you'll be fine. Ribs come in all shapes and sizes. I've even been on 14 metre plus models complete with cabins, a marine head and, in one instance, a stern mounted diver lift. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to be concentrating on the more standard rib size of 6 to 8 metres, and much of this advice could also cross over to any small dive vessel. Let's talk about rib charters first, where the boat will be taking you from the shore to the dive site and then back again. First thing, and this applies to any boat charter, hardboat, liveaboard, etc., is to arrive on plenty of time. Quite often the skipper will have set the time for ropes off to allow for travel time, kitting up and still hit the right tidal conditions, so any delays can risk ruining the entire day for everyone on board. Even if you are diving somewhere where the dive sites aren't so tide dependent, you don't want to be the one holding up the departure time. So make sure you get to the dive boat a good 30 minutes before ropes off time to give you plenty of time to get your kit loaded and prepare for boarding. So, you are there. What next? Now, even a fairly large rib only has limited space for passengers and dive kit, so keep what you want to bring on board to a minimum and try and keep your dive station as neat and tidy as possible. There's nothing worse than being on a rib with someone who has bits of their gear flung all over the place and is then faffing about trying to locate it when it comes time to dive. Generally, you'll have all your core kits set up ready to dive, cylinder attached to a BCD, be that backplate and wing or a traditional jacket style, and regulators in place. And this can be loaded onto the rib in one piece, along with your weight belt or weight pockets. The latter can be slotted in place once your gear is in the tank rack. You usually be in your wetsuit or dry suit with your dive computer on your wrist. This then just leaves your mask, fins and hood and gloves if the conditions require them. I find a mesh bag like this is perfect for rib diving. Stash your mask, fins, hood, gloves etc. in here, and you can tuck it into the straps of your BCD, keeping everything safely together, out of the way of other divers and ready for you to access when it comes time to dive. I usually keep my mask in its storage container, be that a zippered case or a plastic box. Some people just tuck their mask into their fin pocket, but I've seen enough masks get stood on, dropped, crushed by a cylinder and so on to want to protect mine. So my mask stays in its box until I need it and goes back in it as soon as possible when I return from the dive. Once everyone's back on the boat, the cylinders are returned to the tank rack, put your mask, fins, hood and gloves back in the mesh bag. Remember, neat and tidy is key. As well as ensuring you don't lose anything, you'll not risk annoying any of your fellow rib divers. You're now on the rib and you're ready to head out. Listen to the boat briefing from the skipper and take note of any safety features, because if he ends up incapacitated, you might be the one having to use it. Most times the divers will be seated on the tubes, although some dive ribs do have jockey seats. Generally, there will either be a rope or ropes hanging along the sides of the tube, or rubber cleats. Once you're seated comfortably and at an angle so you're facing the bow, make sure to take a firm grip on a rope or cleat. This will help you keep stable once the rib gets up to speed And if the skipper has to take any evasive manoeuvres or hits a rogue wave, as long as you're holding on, you won't end up overboard or in a heap in the rib. I remember 2 lads who were sitting halfway up an 8-metre rib and just chatting, not holding on, when a freak wave popped up and buried the bow. 1 minute they were there, the next the 2 of them were in a crumpled heap in the bow. Thankfully, neither was hurt, just shaken up and more than a little embarrassed. But don't risk it, always hold on with at least one hand. Places like South Africa, where rib launches are through some frankly epic surf, you'd probably be required to don a life jacket. Don't argue, just do it, it's for your safety. Right, you're at the dive site. Time to get in the water. Depending on the size of the boat and where you are in the world, the skipper or crew might assist you into your BCD, or you can do it in your buddy teams. You want to be fully kitted up and ready to go. Mask in place, regulator in your mouth, and your gas turned on. The skipper will tell you how he wants you to enter the water. Normally 1 or 2 buddy teams at a time, but again, this can depend on conditions and location. Getting off a rib is as easy as falling off a boat. You sat on the tubes and you just literally allow yourself to drop backwards into the water. You want to hold your mask and reg with one hand and put the other arm across in front of you with any kit such as camera and the like tucked safely inside, then you're good to go. Rolling in off a rib or small 6-pack boat is not hard, but it's worth doing it a few times in calm conditions before attempting it in rolling seas or big swells. You don't need to flick yourself backwards or anything, just let the weight of your cylinder take you in. If conditions allow, put some air in your BCD before rolling in. It'll pop you back up to the surface. You can then have your camera passed down to you by the skipper if you don't want to roll in with it. If there's a strong current and you need to make a negative entry, get all the air out your BCD. Once you roll in, just keep descending, meeting up with your buddy underwater as you head down. Just make sure that any accessories are well stored or held in front of you when you roll in. I have seen far too many people end up dangling upside down off the side of the rib when their unsecured reel or torch snagged under a cleat. When you return from your dive and you're back on the surface, stick close to your buddy and listen to instructions from the skipper. If he's picking up another buddy team a short distance away, do not try and swim to the boat unless instructed to do so. The skipper knows what the surface conditions are doing. He'll bring the boat to you, and by sticking together, it makes it easier for them to make their approach. Once alongside, grab hold of the rope on the side of the tube. You're now ready to start passing up your equipment. First thing to go should be anything like a camera. Next, remove your weight belt or weight pouches and hand them up. Make sure to hand these to a crew member or another diver already on the boat. Do not just drop them over the side of the tube. I've seen far too many people get badly bruised or broken toes from a carelessly dropped weight landing on their foot. Next, while keeping a hand on the rope, release yourself out of your BCD. Once you're out of it, a crew member will take hold of the pillar valve and haul your kit up onto the rib. You can offer a helping hand by pushing up on the bottom of the cylinder at the same time. Now, you have to get back in the boat, and unless you're on a rib equipped with a ladder, there is no graceful way of exiting the water. The best way to do it is hold on the rope with both hands, take a deep breath, straighten your arms, and then pull up, fiddling as hard as you do so. This should propel you out of the water enough to be able to flop onto the tube, swing your legs around so you're astride the tube. You can then bring in your other leg, remove your fins, and you're good to go. Depending on the size of the tubes and your general build, this procedure can be a little bit more difficult, but don't worry, there'll always be people on hand to grab hold of you and help pull you aboard. You might resemble a grey seal as you unceremoniously slide over the side of the tube, but at least you'll be out of the water. Remember I said about only taking what you're going to be diving in and with, nothing else? Well, there are exceptions. If you're in the tropics, you might want to wear sunglasses and maybe a head covering of some sort to protect you from the burning sun. If you're diving in colder conditions, then a woolly hat is essential. I cannot stress how important a warm hat is if you have been diving in chilly waters. It's not so much for the cold that you feel when you first surface and are sat back on the rib, but for more when you're speeding across the water. The wind chill can be downright painful. A good woolly hat on your head as soon as possible on exiting the water can help retain some of that all-important body heat and avoid that nasty ice cream headache. You can stash your hat and sunglasses in your mask box while you go diving to keep them safe and dry, and then put them back on when you return to the boat and put your mask back. Now, let's talk briefly about rib dive tenders on liveaboards. Much of what I've said before also applies here. The only major difference is that you'll generally get onto the boat from the dive deck of the liveaboard wearing your dive kit, only needing to don mask and fins once you're seated on the tubes. You'll not have or need a mesh bag to store your gear. Be careful when stepping down into the rib. Often swells can make this quite a daunting task, but there'll always be a crew member or two there to offer support and help you in. Listen to instructions, watch the swell. Once you're good to go, do not hesitate. Step onto the tube, into the rib, and then get sat down as soon as possible on the tube to allow others to enter. Don't rush. I've seen people step down onto the tube, take a step onto the deck, and then continue up and over the tube on the other side into the water. Returning to a dive tender rib and exiting the water is much the same, apart from the fact that these are generally just open deck vessels, and once BCDs are hauled on board, they're just laid down on the deck. When you get on board, be careful of where you're stepping and assist others by holding cameras etc. as they get themselves back on the rib. I usually keep my mask hung around my neck to keep it safe. Once you return to your liveaboard, wait for the crew to get the rib secured against the dive deck and listen to the instructions. Again, a crew member will give you some support as you step back up onto the mothership. Just get yourself safely back on the liveaboard. The crew will unload fins, weights, BCDs, etc. onto the dive deck for you to sort later. On the subject of cameras, I always hold my camera in my hand on the way to the dive site and back again. Some people put them on the deck of the rib, but I don't fancy the idea of several £1,000s or dollars worth of camera kit bouncing around on a hard deck. So my advice, keep it with you so you can cushion the impact if the going gets rough. Diving out of ribs is great fun. Not only do you get a wild ride out to the dive site and back again, but you can often access locations out of reach of larger vessels. One thing, unless you are very lucky and aboard a giant rib with all the mod cons, you're not going to have anywhere to go to the bathroom. So make sure you've had your daily ablutions before boarding, as it can be more than a little difficult trying to relieve yourself while in close confines with a load of other divers on a small open boat in the middle of the ocean. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and ring that bell so you get notification for all our new videos. As always, if you're going diving in the coming days, enjoy. Stay safe.